In the grand story of India, we often hear tales of great kings and valiant queens who fought for their land. We learn about Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, a name synonymous with courage against the British. But what if I told you that centuries before her, another queen, a warrior from the sun-drenched coast of Tulu Nadu, waged a fierce war against a European power? Her name was Rani Abbaka Chowta. Her story is a powerful one, yet it remains a whisper in the corridors of history, a name seldom found in the textbooks that fill our children's school bags. She was a queen who ruled not from a grand palace in the north, but from a coastal kingdom, and her enemies were not the British, but the formidable Portuguese. Rani Abbaka was the first Tuluva queen to stand against the might of the Portuguese Empire in the 16th century. Long before the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857, she recognized the threat that these foreign traders posed to her people's sovereignty and freedom. She ruled from Ulal, a small but strategic port town near modern-day Mangalore, a place brimming with the trade of spices and rice. The Portuguese, with their powerful ships and cannons, wanted to control this lucrative trade route. They demanded taxes and tributes, expecting the small kingdom to bow. But Abbaka was forged from a different metal. She refused to yield, choosing defiance over submission and setting the stage for a conflict that would last for decades. Her defiance was not born of recklessness, but of a deep love for her land and her people. As the Portuguese tightened their grip on the western coast, capturing Goa and intimidating local rulers, Abbaka stood as a lone beacon of resistance. She saw their ambitions for what they were, not just trade, but conquest. She understood that paying their taxes was the first step towards losing her kingdom. So she made a choice. She would fight. This decision was monumental, pitting her small but loyal army and a modest fleet against one of the world's most feared naval powers. It was a declaration that the coast of Tulu Nadu would not be easily conquered. The queen's resolve was unusual for the time. Many neighboring kings and chieftains found it easier to capitulate to Portuguese demands, signing treaties and paying fees to avoid conflict. Abbaka, however, saw the bigger picture. She forged alliances with other local powers, including the Zamarin of Calicut, who also nursed a deep-seated rivalry with the Portuguese. She knew that unity was the only way to challenge such a powerful foe. Her courage was infectious, inspiring her soldiers and sailors to believe that they could indeed defend their home. This was not just a queen protecting her throne, it was a mother protecting her motherland from an encroaching shadow. Rani Abbaka's genius lay not in brute force, but in her brilliant understanding of her domain, the labyrinthine coastline and the unpredictable Arabian Sea. She knew she could not match the Portuguese cannon for cannon on the open water. So she turned the sea itself into her greatest weapon. She pioneered a form of naval guerrilla warfare, a tactic unheard of at the time. Her small, swift boats, manned by local fishermen who knew every current and cove, would launch surprise attacks on the lumbering Portuguese carracks. They would strike hard and fast, inflicting damage and disappearing into the coastal inlets before the enemy could even mount a proper response. The Queen's most feared tactic was the use of fire ships. These were old, expendable boats, filled with dry palm leaves, jute, and oil. In the dead of night, her brave sailors would steer these floating infernos directly into the path of the anchored Portuguese fleet. The sight must have been terrifying for the European soldiers. A silent, dark vessel would suddenly erupt into a tower of flame, its burning sails illuminating the night sky as it drifted inexorably towards their wooden ships. The ensuing chaos was her advantage. As Portuguese sailors scrambled to fight the fires and avoid collisions, Abbaka's main forces would attack, turning confusion into a decisive victory. This was a war of wits as much as it was of weapons. Beyond the battlefield, Abbaka engaged in a clandestine game of diplomacy and espionage. Secret letters, written on dried palm leaves and carried by trusted messengers in the dead of night, were exchanged with her allies. These letters contained vital intelligence about Portuguese troop movements, supply lines, and internal disagreements. She cleverly played on the rivalries between the European powers, using information as a weapon to keep her enemies off balance. She knew that the Portuguese were not invincible. They had weaknesses, and she was determined to exploit every single one of them. Her naval forces, though small, were fiercely loyal and highly effective. They were not just soldiers, they were the Mapala and Mogavira communities, men who had spent their entire lives on the sea. They fought with a passion that no mercenary could match because they were defending their homes, their families, and their way of life. Rani Abaka commanded their deep respect, often leading them into battle herself, sword in hand. The queen on the battlefield was a powerful symbol, a testament to her belief that a ruler must share the dangers faced by her people. Her leadership turned a small fishing fleet into a formidable coastal defense force. The Portuguese, frustrated and humiliated by their losses at sea, decided to launch a direct assault on Abaka's capital, Ulal. In 1555, Admiral Dom Álvaro da Silveira led a formidable force to capture the town and put an end to the rebel queen. They expected a swift victory, believing the small fort would crumble under their superior firepower. But they underestimated the queen's strategic mind and the fierce loyalty she inspired. Abaka had prepared Ulal for such an eventuality. The town was not just a settlement, it was a fortress, designed to be defended street by street, house by house. The battle for Ulal was not a conventional siege, it was a brutal, close-quarters struggle. The Portuguese managed to breach the outer defenses and enter the town, but that was when their real nightmare began. Abaka had transformed her capital into a death trap. Her soldiers, hidden on rooftops and in narrow alleyways, rained down arrows and stones upon the invading force. The very layout of the town, with its winding lanes and hidden courtyards, became a weapon against the heavily armored and disoriented Portuguese soldiers. Abaka herself was a whirlwind of fury, a visible presence on the battlefield, rallying her troops and personally leading counterattacks. In a legendary move that cemented her status as a warrior queen, Abaka launched a daring nighttime raid on the Portuguese camp. While the invaders were resting, confident in their partial victory, she and a select group of 200 of her best soldiers slipped out of the fort. They fell upon the sleeping camp with the ferocity of tigers, setting tents on fire and cutting down the enemy. The admiral himself was killed in the chaos. This audacious counterstrike completely broke the morale of the Portuguese army. They had come as conquerors, but they were now being hunted in the very town they thought they had captured. By morning, the Portuguese invasion had turned into a desperate retreat. They fled back to their ships, pursued by Abaka's victorious soldiers. They left behind not only their dead, but also their pride. The queen had not just defended her capital, she had handed a major European power a stinging and humiliating defeat. The victory at Ulal echoed across the coast, a powerful message that Indian rulers could and would fight back. For a time, Ulal became an unbreakable fortress, a symbol of indigenous resistance against colonial ambition, all thanks to the courage of its queen. Despite her incredible victories and her decades-long resistance, the story of Rani Abaka Chauta has faded from the mainstream historical narrative of India. Her name is not celebrated with the same fervor as other rulers who fought colonial powers. One reason for this is that history is often written by the victors, and the Portuguese, despite their many defeats at her hands, eventually established their dominance over the region's trade. Furthermore, historical records have often prioritized the stories of large, land-based empires of the north, inadvertently redacting the vibrant histories of coastal kingdoms and their maritime struggles from the collective memory. The maps and chronicles created by European powers often minimized or completely erased the stories of rulers who resisted them. To them, Abaka was a nuisance, a rebel or a pirate queen, not a sovereign defending her territory. This colonial perspective inevitably seeped into the historical records that were later compiled. Her story, preserved mostly through local Tuluva folk songs and tales known as padanas, did not find its way into the official state-sanctioned histories. As generations passed, her tale of fiery defiance became a local legend rather than a national epic, a chapter of Indian history waiting to be rediscovered and given its rightful place. Learning about Rani Abaka today is more important than ever. Her story is a powerful reminder that the fight for India's freedom did not begin in the 19th century. It is a testament to the fact that resistance against colonial powers was widespread, involving people from all corners of the subcontinent, including women who led from the front. Her narrative broadens our understanding of history, showing us that courage and leadership were not confined to any single region, gender, or community. She represents a legacy of maritime strength and strategic defiance that is a crucial, yet often overlooked part of India's past. By remembering Rani Abaka, we honor not just a forgotten queen, but an entire tradition of coastal resistance. We give a voice to the countless unnamed sailors, soldiers, and citizens who fought alongside her to protect their freedom. Her story inspires a sense of regional pride and connects us to a more diverse and complex understanding of our own history. It teaches us that true heroes can be found in the most unexpected places, not just in grand palaces, but in small coastal forts, defending their homeland with fire, water, and an unbreakable will. Her echo deserves to be heard by every Indian,